and welcome to my studio. In this video, we're going to be discussing some common problems that you can run into when painting landscape paintings. And we're going to be using this painting as an example. At one point, I thought I was finished with this painting, but as you'll see, there's some glaring issues that I had run into that required me to basically keep working on it. So hopefully by the time that you're done watching this video, you'll have a better understanding of some things to look out for when you're painting your own landscape paintings. Hope you enjoy. Here is the painting when I thought it was finished. Now this painting is actually the second painting I have done of the same theme. So now I'm going to show you a picture of the first painting. So you can see there's definitely some differences here, and some things are better in the first painting and some things not so much better. First, I'm going to discuss the elements of the second painting that I like better than the first one, and really give you an idea of why I wanted to paint the second painting in the first place. So first off, if you look at the background of the second painting, you'll notice that the background trees are much foggier and there's much less detail there, and there's a much bigger contrast between the background trees and the more foreground tree. In the first painting, I really didn't like the dynamic, both the color dynamic and the depth dynamic of the trees as they compared to each other. So I really wanted to correct that. You also notice the difference in the trees themselves, the foreground trees. The first one looks okay, but there's something about it that just doesn't feel as realistic. The second one doesn't have quite as many highlights on it, but the overall feel of the tree just feels much more realistic to me. That was one of the things I definitely wanted to tackle. The other thing that I was really focused on was the line of sight in the painting itself. You notice in the first painting, the fence is pretty much flesh square to the viewer, and I really wanted to draw the viewer's eye in to the painting more. So in this second painting, and it's very subtle, but you'll see that there's a lot more lines pointing to the middle of that painting. The fence itself is slightly angled upward on the sides, and the flagpole is pointing much more towards the middle, giving that pull of the eye in more into the middle of that painting. Okay, so now on to the elements of this second painting that are not as good and definitely need some work. So first and foremost, very obvious, the fence itself looks a lot plainer than in the first one. The first painting has a lot more texture to the fence and just a lot more detail. So I definitely want to be able to fix that. Now how I'm going to fix that actually is I'm going to just add a lot more shadow. In reality, there's actually a lot of detail in this second fence. It's just not as obvious to see because the contrast in the colors on the fence are just much, much more subtle. So it ends up kind of blending in and looking a lot more bland and nowhere near as good. You'll also notice, very obvious, if we look back at the first picture, that the grass, the foreground grass in the first picture is much more detailed. Now in the second painting, I was trying a new technique for putting grass down, and I was looking for a little bit shorter grass. This painting is supposed to be a national battlefield painting, and in my mind I was thinking, national battlefield, we want a much more well-groomed grass. But what ended up happening by having shorter grass is it created kind of a stamp effect, if you will. If you look at the fence in the second painting and the flagpole, they feel like they're kind of floating on top of the painting, right? And you lose that depth of grass. You lose that feeling that the fence and the flag are in the painting as opposed to just being set on top of the painting. So I'm going through and I'm going to be growing that grass essentially in that second painting. And I think that'll really make it feel like the fence and the pole are actually a part of this painting. Now, another very important aspect here that I didn't see at all when painting this, I didn't notice it until after I took the picture. And that's what artists call an artificial horizon. So if you look right in the middle of this second painting, there is a line between the background grass and the foreground grass that really doesn't exist in that first painting. And it really pulls your attention away from the actual horizon of the painting, and it just doesn't feel right? That disconnect between background and foreground grass is so stark that it really messes up the realism of this painting. So I've actually already corrected this painting. So I hope you enjoy it. Here's a time-lapse video of fixing National Battlefield.